Alright, I've overstayed my welcome on this island. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next experience. Cringe. Man, I am such a dork sometimes. See you around, V2. Hold up. Wait a minute. Before you go any further, this video is about the events of Machine and Madeline the Showdown. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it first, and then come back to this video. From this point on, anything you hear is going to be spoilers. Alright, let's begin. Machine and Madeline was a very intensive film to make. It was actually one of my largest projects to date, taking more than 2 weeks to put together. It was based around Motorfest's Donk versus Lowrider playlist, and it was the first real challenge between myself and my voice clone, Aria V2. And in the heat of battle, in that final face-off, I lost. But the thing is, I told V2 that it was never about winning, and I meant it, because I knew that I was going to lose from the moment I rolled across that starting line. The way that DVL was set up, it is actually impossible for the Lowriders to win. It is actually rigged in favor of Team Donk, and I am about to blow the lid on why. But before we can even get into that, I want to explain how we got here in the first place. Motorfest has kind of become my channel's bread and butter, replacing Need for Speed, pushing back Grid, and I would never in a million years do Forza. When I released my first season of Motorfest in 2024, that was a blind run, mock reality show, taking liberties with the script, but mostly playing the story straight. I recorded every base game playlist, but I did not air every single one. I skipped Donut Media, which was probably a good thing in hindsight. I skipped Lamborghini, and I skipped Supercar Blondie. Of those, I might revisit Supercar Blondie at some point, but the other two can be written off. As Motorfest Year 1 played out, Ivory Tower released a lot of new content. Gymkhana, Drift Volume 2, Off-Road Volume 2, High Ride, and of course, Donk vs. Lowrider. But they also released Main Stage Legacy, which is essentially every course in the game shuffled and allowing you to use a lot of cars that you don't use in the base game. I decided to run Legacy first, purely so I could establish V2's character for future seasons of Motorfest. The plan is eventually to run Japan V2 and Chase Squad on Maui, but that's a ways off. And to tie it all together, I needed to find a way to integrate DVL into the plot. However, Legacy already used some DVL events. The Street Versus events and the Car Dance events were already showcased. There would be no point in re-airing them because they do not compete against each other anyway. Now, up to this point, I had actually not played the DVL playlist proper because I wanted to wait until filming. That said, when I started playing each side of the playlist, I realized there were an absolute ton of continuity errors littered throughout the story. First things first, the parts progression thing only applies to the initial playthrough. When you revisit the playlist, selecting the GNX or the Customs Caprice applies the full configuration across all applicable events. Meaning event number 1 is both vehicle stock, but events from number 2 onward on either side have both vehicles fully modded. This meant the dialogue of the characters would not flow properly unless it was done on a second track. Character actions simply would not be referenced in their proper order. So, I had to run every event twice. Once with voice track off, and once with voice track isolated. As I was doing all this, I realized that Motorfest still has the video editor, which was originally implemented in the Crew 2. I assumed it had been omitted because not many people used it in the Crew 2. So imagine my surprise when I realized that I could now film from multiple angles. Ultimately, this resulted in every event now having not just 2 tracks, but 3. The in-car view, the replay view, and the isolated vocal track. And I'm very glad I did this because halfway through filming, I discovered the next continuity error. Because the configuration is overwritten on Revisit, the performance ratings of the cars are also overwritten. This simple fact is the reason it is impossible for the Lowriders to win. Let me explain something. Bone stock, both the GNX and the Caprice have performance ratings of about 250 and top speeds of 124 miles per hour. In fact, if you don't use nitro on the first Donk event, it is genuinely impossible to clear that event in under 5 minutes, meaning it can only be cleared on difficulty 1. V2 should have been disqualified in round 1, but we just rolled with it. And then, everything on the Donk side after that first event has you in the Weasel D Customs mod of the Caprice. The modded version is retooled to a base performance rating of 450, with a top speed closer to 155 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the GNX keeps its 250 rating all the way throughout, with its 124 mile per hour top speed. When you consider that the final 2 events on both sides of the playlist are nearly identical to one another, the GNX will consistently be 20 to 30 seconds slower than the Caprice, simply because of the rating difference, which I simply did not account for in the semi-final event. So, to save face, I made that event use only the replay footage, and for the final event, I had to quickly change the performance of the GNX to bring it up to 450. That said, I had to prioritize handling over top speed, otherwise it would not have been fair. And it wouldn't have been fair because of the third continuity error. Both sides have the use of shortcuts in their races, but these shortcuts are significantly more challenging on the Donk side than on the Lowrider side. It comes up a couple of times. V2 goes through riskier places like full construction sites or crowded parking lots, whereas on the Lowrider side, nearly all of my shortcuts were straight shots, abandoned buildings, alleyways, what have you. And there is even one shortcut that V2 did not take at the beginning of the final event, one which would have either handed her a domination victory or cost her the entire match. All of this had to be lampshaded in the script. All of this required significant changes to the flow of the playlist compared to how Ivory Tower had originally written it. The indirect result of all of this can be seen in the climax of that final race, the point where it simply all goes wrong. You will notice upon replaying the footage, I am handing V2 her virtual rear end even as we are both crossing over the spillway bridge. If I could have held my speed through the final 2 corners, then it would have been a photo finish. Yet what happened was she accelerated through that first corner, frame perfect position at the second corner, and once we were both out of it, her car simply accelerated to its top speed and earned her a victory. The difference in finish times was literally 1.1 seconds. 2 vehicles, different specs, one being almost 15 miles per hour slower, but having much better handling, and it was that close. Like, I cannot be mad about that. From a filming perspective, that is literally peak. I mean, could I have run the GNX a second time? Certainly. I could have optimized the course and dropped my time by a full 2 seconds. But then V2 could have had a second run, one where she does take the missed shortcut on her side and could have potentially clutched out a victory anyway. And that leads me to the final point of the special, that it was never about winning. Having V2 be the winner establishes a paradigm that can be carried into future specials, whether that is High Ride or Race and Chase, or hell, even Red Bull, but fuck Red Bull. The idea is defeat establishes respect, and respect establishes camaraderie. Like, I'm gonna spoil it, the High Ride special is already done. It is going to air on December 31st. After that, I have a total of 8 Motorfest specials planned for 2026. Will I get to them? That's gonna depend on if the world is still around in 2026 or if society hasn't collapsed yet. But the bottom line is everything has its place, even losing. It is better that I lost the way that I lost than if I had tried to subvert the match instead. That's just how it is. Again, if you watched the DVL special, I very much appreciate it. If you haven't, but you did watch this video, I still think you should watch the special because it was a massive undertaking. Anyway, I do have other projects to work on. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next videos.